Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this beginner-friendly baseball-themed wreath using the Deco Mesh Cruffle method. You'll find a full materials and tools list for you below in the description of this video, and great news, you can buy all of these items in a wreath kit on my Etsy shop. So I'll be sure to leave that link for you below in the description of this video as well. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's dive in. So we're going to start out by using a 15-inch work wreath frame. The first thing we need to do is cut some Deco mesh. So these wreath forms, friends, they actually have 18 ties in total on this wreath frame. So we need 18 pieces of Deco mesh to make our wreath. So we're going to cut 18, because remember we've got 18 ties, 18 pieces of red Deco mesh at 20 inches in length. So if you're doing this along with me with your own supplies, go ahead and cut 18 pieces of this at 20 inches. I've got all of the 20-inch pieces of red Deco mesh cut, and remember I started out with a brand new roll. It literally left possibly one scrap piece left. So if you're purchasing your supplies on your own, you'll definitely need a full roll of 10-inch Deco mesh. Each of these ties is going to get one piece of the red Deco mesh, and we're going to add in what's called a Cruffle, which is a combination of a curl and a ruffle. If you've not worked with Deco mesh before, it likes to fray, and so the Cruffle is a great method to really prevent that fray. And to make a Cruffle, you're going to take your 20-inch piece of Deco mesh. It likes to curl in on itself, and you want the curl side to be up. So at one end, you're going to, and let me pause, if you'd like to add a weight at this end, if that curling in is bothersome to you, you sure can. Just lay your sign there or something with a little bit of heaviness, and that'll keep it out of the way. But at one end, you're going to take your Deco mesh fairly tightly and make 2 curls. And what that does, friends, that actually takes those cut raw edges and curls them under to prevent the fray from happening. I'm just going to pinch it with my other hand, create another 2 curls on the end to tuck in the second side's edges, and then pinch and gather, pinch and gather, pinch and gather in the middle until your hands meet and you've got what's called a Cruffle, because you've got a curl on each end and a ruffle in the middle. You're going to take your curl, and on the bottom level, I always start on the bottom, I guess it doesn't really matter, but on the bottom level you're going to take your Cruffle, press it all the way down to the base of your wreath form, and you're going to give the ties one tight twist. Doesn't need to be super tight, it's just going to hold it for now, because we're going to go back through and add in our second Deco mesh along with some ribbons. So at this point your ties are just a holding. Now let's do one more together. Grab your piece of Deco mesh, roll in the edges tightly twice to create that curl. Hold it with your hand or a chip clip if that's easier. With the second edge, roll it in twice to create that curl, and then pinch and gather, pinch and gather, pinch and gather. And then we'll add our Cruffle into our second layer. Press that all the way down to the base of your ties and give it one solid tight twist, just to hold that until we're ready to add in other pieces. So what I want you to do at this point, friends, is to add one Cruffle to every single tie on your wreath frame, and then I'll meet you back here. We've got all of our red Cruffles added into our wreath base, and now it's time to move on to our second Deco mesh. So go ahead and sit your wreath base off to the side. And if you've purchased a kit, friends, this step is already finished for you, so you can fast forward. But if you're using your own materials and working along with me, go ahead and grab your self-healing mat and rotary cutter or a good pair of scissors, whatever you're using, and grab that 10-inch black and white check deco mesh. And our next step is we're going to add 1 curl of this black and white check deco mesh to each tie. So remember, we've got 18 ties, and we're going to cut these pieces into 10-inch squares. So go ahead and cut 18 pieces at 10 inches in length, and I'll meet you back here. Go ahead and grab your wreath base, and we'll get those added in. And for this step, friends, you're going to take 1 piece of your deco mesh, and we're just going to make a curl. So all you're going to do is roll it up onto itself to make a curl, and you're going to roll in the direction in which it naturally wants to go. So you're going to tuck in that cut edge side and just roll, roll, roll all the way to the end of your piece of deco mesh. And so then your curl is probably, anywhere between 1.5 inches and 2 inches. And then all you're going to do is take 1 curl and add it into every single tie on your wreath. And so what you're going to do, you can start at the bottom or top, it doesn't matter. You're going to gently untwist your tie. Take your curl seam side down, wherever your raw edge is should be down. Place that all the way down into the center of that tie and give it 1 tight twist, because we're going to add 1 more layer here in a little bit. And so you're going to add 1 curl per tie all the way around. We'll do 1 more together and then we'll speed through. So take your 10-inch piece of deco mesh. Typically the side that I roll in, friends, is the one that's the most jagged and likely to fray. This side looks pretty clean, so we'll leave that on the outside. And again, you're just going to tightly roll, 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 all the way to the end of your piece. Hold it in your hands with your fingers. Find your next tie, gently untie, and seam side down, add that into the tie all the way to the center, and give it a tight twist. So let's do this all the way around, friends, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, we have now added in our second layer of deco mesh, and so you should have added 1 of the black and white check curls to every single tie, and your wreath should be looking something like this. So it's time to jump forward to the next step. We're going to add our decorative sign. If you've purchased your sign from me, from my wreath kit, then your sign is going to look just like this, and on each side you're going to see a small drill hole. If you're making this with your own supplies, friends, just go ahead and drill a hole into your wooden sign. You want this sign to be right in the center. So at this point, there's no top or bottom to our wreath. So we're just going to find a chenille stem, and that one, you're going to give it another couple of spins so it's really tight and secure. And take 1 of those ties and just run that right down into that hole. We're not going to attach it yet. Then come to the other side, and we're going to do the exact same thing. But first, I want to make sure that that deco mesh that's near the corners and the ties are out of the way, and we don't accidentally get those lost underneath our sign. So, keeping it centered, go ahead and add your sign to the second side here, and this is what it should look like. And so you should have 3 sets of ties above and below. That's how you'll know that you've got your sign centered if you're building this wreath kit or using your own sign. Now we're going to get our ribbon ready. Grab your decorative ribbon, and you've got 4 different types here. You should be using 4 different types: 2 2.5-inch wired ribbon and 2 1.5-inch wired ribbon. If you purchased a wreath kit from me, friends, this step is already done for you, and you can just skip ahead to the part where we're actually adding the ribbon in. But if you're using your own supplies, you're going to want 4 different types of wired ribbon. The wired part is important. That's what helps your ribbon hold its shape. And we're going to be adding 2 tails to every single tie on our wreath. So for each type, you're going to cut 9 pieces of every single one at 10 inches in length. Okay, friends, so what you're going to do is find a ruler or your self-healing mat, and we need 9 of each ribbon type at 10 inches in length. So hold your ribbon down on your ruler or self-healing mat. You can also use a ribbon board if you have one. Find that 10-inch mark. Doesn't have to be perfect. Hold that with your finger so you know where that spot's at. And then fold that over onto itself. And we're going to do that until we have 9 pieces. So here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now take your scissors and just cut that ribbon off. You've got the 9 pieces that you need. Now, keeping your stack together, take your scissors, find the center point, and just cut that right in half. Then flip your ribbon stack over and do the exact same thing. And now we have 9 cut pieces of 10-inch ribbon ready to go. So the next thing we need to do is cut our ends. We don't want to leave them flat. You can choose if you would like to dovetail your ribbon tail ends or cut them at an angle. Because this isn't a very feminine wreath, I'm just going to cut it at an angle. I'm just taking my scissors and coming down 1/2 inch on the side and cutting up towards the corner. So we've got angled pieces, and you're going to do that for every single ribbon. I can cut 3 at a time. I've got some pretty heavy duty scissors, but don't overload your scissors more than what they can bear, or you'll have a jagged cut. So we're going to do this for all of the ribbon types. You're going to cut 9 pieces of each of the ribbon types at 10 inches in length, and then trim your ends. So let's get this step done in a hurry, friends, and I'll meet you back here. Now we have our ribbons all cut and ready to go. And so you can add your ribbons in any way that you would like, friends. This is your wreath, so make it your own. I'll just show you my preferred method, and you can alter it if you'd like. So what we're going to do first, we're actually going to start by adding the 2 ribbons to the ties that we've got our sign attached to. Go ahead and grab your wire snips as well. We're going to need those to cut off our remaining bits of ties. I like to take one 2.5-inch ribbon tail and pair that with a 1.5-inch ribbon tail. You're just going to lay one on top of the other. It doesn't matter what way you add these in. You just want to remember that you need 2 tails, ribbon tails, per tie. So you're going to find the center. You can just eyeball it, or if you'd like to be more specific, fold it in half. That halfway point will show you where your middle is. In the middle with your thumbs, you're just going to pinch and pleat, pinch and pleat, pinch and pleat until you have what looks to be like a little men's bow tie. Then you're going to fold that into a partial V. Then add it into your ties right there in the middle, pressing it all the way down and giving it 2 or 3 really tight twists. And then take your snips, trim off that excess bit of wire tie. Just kind of curl those ends under a little bit. You can fluff out your tails how you would like. I just keep them at a loose V so that they're all flowing away from the sign and pointing outwards, but you can certainly do it how you'd like. And it's my preference also, friends, to add the same ribbon set of tails on each end, just for some consistency. Pinch and pleat, pinch and pleat, pinch and pleat. Form it into a V. Press that all the way down and give it a couple of really tight twists. Grab your wire snips, trim off those tie tails. Push them down under just so that they're out of the way a little bit. And then fluff out your ribbon tails. So because we've got 3 sets of ties above and below, I prefer to go every other with my ribbon varieties, but it's your wreath. You can certainly add them in as you would like. So we'll do this top ring together, and then we'll work quickly through the lower level. So I'm just going to add that same ribbon combination up here at the top. Press that down in all the way as far as it'll go. I'm going to give that 2 or 3 tight twists and trim off that excess bit of tie. Throw those bits away, curl that under, and fluff out my tails. All right. Let me add this last ribbon combination here to our tie below, pressing it all the way down in, 2 or 3 tight twists, trim off your excess tie, fold those bits under just a little bit, you just don't want to get poked, fluff out those tails. And now we've got 4 ties remaining at the top level. Into those 4, I'm going to add my second set of ribbon combination, which is the black, white, and red polka dot. Just like before, place one on top of the other, pinch and pleat in the center, form it into a V, add that into your ties, press it all the way down, 2 or 3 tight twists, trim off your excess tie, fold those down just a little bit, and fluff out those ribbon tails. We've got 3 more for this upper level that we'll do together, and then we'll jump down to that lower level and work at a quick speed. Friends, if you end up recreating this wreath, either with your own materials or by purchasing my wreath kit, drop a comment below and share that with me. I always like to hear those things. Also, remember that if you want this exact wreath kit, I will leave a link for you below to my Etsy shop, where you can purchase all of this with the materials pre-cut in my Etsy shop so that you can just order it, get it in the mail, and dive in. This is really coming together nicely. If you're wondering how much time this takes you, friends, if you are a beginner wreath maker and you've purchased my kit with everything pre-cut and ready to go, you could expect it to take about 45 minutes or so. If you're an experienced wreath maker, maybe a little bit less time. If you're buying your own materials and have to pre-cut everything, I would give yourself an hour and 15 to an hour and a half. All right, we've got our first layer of ribbon tails added all the way around. We've trimmed off the excess bits of ties as we've went. And now it's time to jump down to the lower level and do the exact same thing. I'm just going to alternate back and forth between the 2 ribbon sets, adding a set or 2 tails to every single tie, trimming off the edges, and then I'll meet you back here. Our wreath is totally finished, friends. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow. And remember, if you'd like this exact wreath kit, I'm going to leave a direct link to my Etsy shop and this item in the description below. And if you love all things door decor and wreath making, make sure you hit that subscribe. Thanks, friends. Happy crafting.